I never told anyone about what happened in that house. Not because I forgot, but because every time I tried to explain it, something went wrong around me. Lights flickered, doors shifted, sounds came from empty places, as if the house was listening and warning me to stay quiet. This happened 3 years ago, when I was 21. At that time, I was living alone for the first time in my life. My parents had moved back to our hometown after my father retired, and I stayed behind because of college and a part-time job. I couldn't afford anything fancy, so when I found a small, old rental house on the edge of the city for cheap, I didn't ask too many questions. That was my first mistake. The landlord was an older man, maybe in his late 50s. He avoided eye contact when he handed me the keys. His hands were shaking slightly, and when I asked him how long the house had been empty, he paused for a little too long before saying, "A while." I should have asked more. I didn't. The house looked normal from the outside. Single floor, faded white paint, small front yard with dry grass. Nothing screamed danger. It didn't feel haunted. It didn't feel creepy. It felt quiet. Too quiet, but I ignored that feeling because I needed the place. Inside, everything was basic. One bedroom, a small kitchen, a bathroom, and a narrow hallway connecting them all. The walls were thin, the floor creaked when I walked, and the air smelled faintly of damp wood. The first night, I slept with all the lights on. Not because I was scared, at least that's what I told myself, but because the silence felt heavy, like the house was holding its breath. Still, nothing happened. No noises. No shadows. No strange dreams. For the first few days, life went on normally. I went to college during the day, worked evenings at a cafe, came home tired, ate instant food, and slept. Sometimes I'd hear the usual house sounds, pipes, wood settling, distant dogs barking, but nothing unusual. Then, on the 5th night, I noticed something small. I had a habit of locking my bedroom door before sleeping. Not because of fear, just routine. That night, I clearly remember locking it. I remember the click. I even checked the handle. In the morning, the door was open. At first, I thought maybe I forgot. It happens. I didn't panic. I closed it, told myself I was overthinking, and moved on. But the next night, it happened again. Locked door. Morning open. This time, I felt uneasy. I started checking everything before sleeping. Windows closed. Front door locked. Bedroom door locked. I even took pictures on my phone once, just to reassure myself. Still, the door kept opening. No signs of forced entry. Nothing missing. No mess. Just the door. Around the same time, I started noticing the hallway. The hallway was narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people to stand side by side. During the day, it looked normal. At night, it looked longer. The shadows at the end of it felt deeper, thicker, like darkness was pooling there instead of fading naturally. One night, while brushing my teeth, I caught myself staring at the hallway through the mirror. I don't know why. Something about it pulled my attention. That's when I saw movement. Not a figure. Not a shadow. Just darkness shifting. Like someone stepped back just out of sight. I froze, toothbrush still in my mouth, heart pounding. I stared for a long time, waiting for it to happen again. It didn't. I told myself it was my eyes adjusting. Or stress. Or imagination. That explanation worked, for a while. Things escalated slowly after that. Almost politely. Objects began moving, but not dramatically. My keys wouldn't be where I left them. A chair would be slightly pulled out. Kitchen cabinets would be open when I knew I'd closed them. Every time, I blamed myself. Until one evening, I came home from work and found muddy footprints in the hallway. They weren't clear shoe prints. They looked smeared, like someone walked with bare, wet feet. They started near the front door and stopped right outside my bedroom. I stood there for a long time, staring at them. I lived alone. No pets. No guests. My hands were shaking as I cleaned them up. I checked every lock again and again. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed with a knife from the kitchen, listening to the house breathe. Nothing happened. That's the worst part. Nothing dramatic happened. No screams. No sudden attacks. just waiting. A few days later, I noticed the smell. At first, it was faint, like damp clothes left too long in a closed room. Then it became stronger. Sour. Rotting. It came from the hallway. I searched everywhere, bathroom, kitchen, bedroom, but couldn't find the source. The smell was strongest near the wall at the end of the hallway. I mentioned it to the landlord when he came to collect rent. He stiffened the moment I brought it up. "There shouldn't be any smell," he said quickly. Too quickly. When I pressed him, his voice dropped. "That wall, don't damage it. Whatever happens." I asked him what he meant. He didn't answer. He just left. That night, I had my first dream. In the dream, I was standing in my hallway, facing that same wall. I could hear breathing behind it. Slow. Heavy. Like someone trying not to be heard. I woke up drenched in sweat. The breathing didn't stop. It took me a few seconds to realize it wasn't a dream anymore. It was coming from the hallway. I held my breath, listening. The sound was low, uneven, like lungs struggling. I slowly opened my bedroom door just enough to look out. The hallway was dark. Too dark. The darkness didn't belong there. It looked thick, solid, like fog made of shadow. And from inside it, the breathing continued. I shut the door silently and locked it, my whole body shaking. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, the smell was unbearable. That's when I noticed something new. Scratches. Thin, shallow scratches on the hallway wall, as if something sharp had dragged against it repeatedly. They weren't there before. I was sure of it. I packed a bag that same day. I told myself I'd stay with a friend for a while. I didn't care about rent or money anymore. As I was about to leave, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. It was the landlord. His voice was strained. "You went into the hallway at night, didn't you?" I didn't answer. There was a long pause. Then he said something that still makes my stomach drop. "It knows you noticed." The call ended. I left anyway. I stayed with my friend for 3 nights. During that time, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that dark hallway. Smelled that rot. Heard that breathing. On the 4th day, my landlord called again. "They found something in the house," he said quietly. My heart pounded. "Who found what?" "The neighbors complained about the smell," he continued. "Police came." I asked him what they found. He hesitated, then said they opened the wall. I felt dizzy. Opened the wall? There was another pause. "They found space behind it," he said. "A narrow room. No windows. No lights." My throat felt dry. "Was there someone there?" He didn't answer directly. "They said it looked like someone had been living there," he finally said. "Recently." I dropped the phone. I never went back to that house. The police ruled it an illegal modification. No suspects. No clear explanation. The case faded quietly. But sometimes, late at night, when my room is completely dark, I smell that same rot again. And I hear breathing. Right behind my walls. I told myself leaving that house would end everything. That distance would break whatever connection I had with it. I was wrong. For the first few weeks after I moved out, nothing happened. I stayed with my friend Mira in her apartment near campus. She knew something was wrong with me but didn't push. I barely spoke about the house. I couldn't. Every time I tried to describe the hallway or the breathing, my chest tightened and my mouth went dry, like my body was stopping me. Life slowly tried to feel normal again. I went back to college. I worked my cafe shifts. I laughed when I was supposed to, but inside, I felt like something had followed me, not physically, not in a way I could point to, but like a pressure that never left my back. The first sign came at night. Mira's apartment was small but clean, with thin walls and noisy neighbors. The kind of place where silence never fully settles. That should have made me feel safe. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up because I thought someone was standing near the door. I opened my eyes, heart racing, and stared into the darkness. Nothing. No shape. No movement. But the feeling didn't leave. That same heavy awareness I'd felt in the old house, like something was waiting for me to notice it. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No messages. When I lay back down, I smelled it. That same faint, rotting damp smell. It was weak, almost imaginary, but it was there. I pulled the blanket over my face and forced myself to sleep. The next morning, Mira complained that her apartment smelled weird. She blamed the garbage chute. I didn't say anything. After that, the smell came and went. Never strong enough to prove anything. Always just enough to make my stomach knot. Then the dreams started again. In the dreams, I wasn't in the old house anymore. I was somewhere smaller, tighter, like I was inside the walls themselves. I could feel rough concrete scraping my skin. I could hear breathing, but this time, it was close. Too close. Right behind my ear. Every time I woke up, my pillow was damp with sweat, and my heart felt like it had been running for hours. I tried to rationalize it. Trauma. Stress. Lack of sleep. That's what I told myself. That's what Google told me. I almost believed it. Until I found the scratch marks. Mira had a narrow hallway leading to the bathroom. One morning, while brushing my teeth, I noticed faint lines on the wall near the floor. Thin. Shallow. Irregular. Scratches. I stared at them for a long time, my mind refusing to connect the dots. Did you move furniture here? I asked Mira later that day. She looked confused. No. Why? I didn't answer. That night, I locked my bedroom door out of habit. I hadn't even realized I'd started doing that everywhere I slept. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a soft sound. Not breathing. Scratching. Slow. Deliberate. Like nails dragging gently over a surface. It was coming from the wall behind my bed. I sat up, frozen, every muscle locked in place. The sound stopped the moment I moved. I didn't sleep again that night. The next day, I moved out of Mira's place. I didn't explain properly. I made excuses about needing my own space. She looked hurt, but she didn't stop me. Maybe she could sense that whatever I was dealing with wasn't something she could help with. I found a small studio apartment closer to my college. New building. Bright lights. CCTV cameras in the hallway. Security guard downstairs. I thought that would be enough. For a while, it was. Weeks passed without incidents. No smells. No sounds. No dreams. I started to relax. That's when I made the second mistake. I went back to the old neighborhood. I don't know why. Curiosity, maybe. Or the need for closure. I told myself I just wanted to see the house from the outside, to prove to myself that it no longer had any power over me. The house looked worse than before. The paint was peeling. The front yard was overgrown. Police tape still hung loosely near the sidewall, faded and torn. A neighbor was standing outside, smoking. I didn't plan to talk to him. It just happened. Do you know what happened here? I asked, trying to sound casual. He studied my face for a moment. You lived there, didn't you? My stomach dropped. He sighed and put out his cigarette. They didn't tell you everything. I felt my hands go cold. Tell me what? They found more than one space behind the walls, he said quietly. Not just that narrow room. My head started spinning. They found signs that someone had been moving between the walls, he continued. Crawling. Living there. Watching. I swallowed hard. Did they find a body? He shook his head slowly. No. That's the problem. I left before he could say anything else. That night, the dreams returned with a vengeance. In the dream, I was standing in my new apartment, but the walls were wrong. Too close. Breathing. I could hear movement inside them, slow shifting, like something adjusting its position. I woke up screaming. The smell was back. Stronger this time. I searched the apartment frantically, opening windows, checking drains, blaming anything I could think of. But deep down, I knew. It wasn't the apartment. It was me. Something had attached itself to me. Not the house. Not the walls. Me. From that night on, the signs followed me everywhere. I'd feel sudden cold spots near walls. I'd hear soft tapping sounds late at night. My phone would glitch, turning on by itself at 3:17 a.m., the same time I'd usually hear the breathing in the old house. I stopped sleeping near walls. I rearranged my furniture constantly. I kept lights on. I played music at night to drown out the silence. None of it worked. One evening, while scrolling through my phone, I found something that made my blood run cold. A news article from 10 years ago. Missing woman case reopened after anonymous tip. The address mentioned was the same street as the old house. The article was short. Details were vague. The woman had disappeared after renting a small house alone. No signs of forced entry. No suspects. At the bottom of the article was a single line. Investigators believe she may have been living with someone inside the house without her knowledge. I dropped my phone. That night, I heard a whisper for the first time. Not words. Just my name. Soft. Careful. Like it was being tested. It came from the wall behind my bed. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I knew deep in my bones that if I reacted, it would get closer. The whisper didn't come again that night. But the next morning, I found a new scratch mark on the wall, closer to my pillow. After the whisper, I stopped pretending this was something I could ignore. I stopped sleeping in my bed. I dragged my mattress into the center of the room, away from all four walls. It looked ridiculous, like a temporary setup after a flood, but I didn't care. Walls no longer felt solid to me. They felt thin, hollow, like skin stretched over something alive. For a few nights, nothing happened. No smell, no scratching, no whispers. I started to breathe again. That's how it worked. It always waited until I felt safe. One night, I woke up because my phone vibrated. Not rang, vibrated. Short bursts, like notifications stacking up. I reached for it and froze. There were dozens of missed calls, all from my own number. The timestamps were wrong. Some were from hours in the future. Some were from times when I knew I was asleep. A few were marked as ongoing for more than 20 minutes. I stared at the screen, my chest tightening. Then my phone started ringing in my hand. My number. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The ringing stopped on its own. The room felt colder after that. Not air conditioner cold. The kind of cold that sinks into your bones. That's when I heard movement. Not scratching this time. Shifting. Like something heavy adjusting its position inside the wall nearest the bathroom. I pressed my hands over my ears and squeezed my eyes shut, silently begging for it to stop. I didn't hear breathing. I didn't hear whispers. Just that slow, patient movement. In the morning, the wall looked normal. No scratches. No marks. No cracks. That scared me more than if there had been damage. I stopped going to college. I called in sick to work. I barely left the apartment. I didn't want to give it any opportunity to follow me somewhere new. But isolation makes things worse. It gives your fear space to grow. I started recording things. At first, it was just audio. I left my phone recording overnight, placed near the walls. Every morning, I listened back. Most nights, there was nothing. But sometimes, rarely, I'd hear faint sounds underneath the static. Soft thumps. Slow drags. Something that sounded like fabric brushing against concrete. Once, I heard breathing. Very quiet. Very close. I took the recordings to the building manager. I didn't mention walls or whispers. I just said I thought there was an animal problem. He listened politely, then shook his head. No signs of rodents. Buildings new. I wanted to scream. That evening, I found an envelope pushed halfway under my apartment door. No name. No stamp. Inside was a single sheet of paper. On it, written in uneven handwriting, were the words, "It doesn't like when you record." My knees gave out. I sat on the floor, staring at the paper until my eyes burned. Someone new. Or something new. I checked the hallway cameras later that night. I told the security guard I'd lost a package. He let me watch the footage. No one approached my door. The envelope shouldn't have been there. I stopped recording after that. That night, I dreamed I was back in the old house. I stood in the hallway, facing the wall at the end. This time, the wall was cracked open. Just a thin vertical gap, like a door barely ajar. From inside, I could see darkness moving. I leaned closer in the dream, even though every part of me screamed not to. A face pressed against the gap. Not fully visible. Just an eye. Bloodshot. Unblinking. I woke up gasping for air. The smell was overwhelming. It filled the room, thick and rotten, like something had died nearby. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. When I came back, I noticed something that made my vision blur. The wall had changed. There was a faint outline on it, a shape darker than the rest of the paint. Tall, narrow, almost human, like a stain that had soaked in too deep. I tried scrubbing it. It didn't fade. I called the landlord of my old house that morning. I don't know what I expected, answers maybe, or reassurance. The number was disconnected. I searched his name online. I searched the property records. The house was listed as under investigation. No owner information available. That's when I started digging deeper. Late nights at my laptop, surrounded by lights, I searched missing person cases, old rental listings, forums where people talked about strange living situations, crawl spaces, hidden rooms. I found more than I wanted to. Stories of people discovering someone living inside their walls for months, years, watching, listening, moving only when no one was looking. Most of the stories ended the same way. They never found the person. Or they found signs that someone had been there, recently. One post caught my attention. It was buried deep in a forum thread, years old. A woman described renting a cheap house near the edge of the city. She mentioned smells, scratching, doors opening. Then she wrote one line that made my blood run cold. It didn't leave the house when I did. It left with me. The account was deleted. No replies. I slammed my laptop shut. That night, I felt it for the first time. Touch. I was lying on my mattress, lights on, eyes open. I hadn't slept in nearly 40 hours. My body felt heavy, numb. Something brushed against my ankle. Not pressure, just contact, like fingers grazing skin. I kicked instinctively and scrambled backward, my heart hammering. There was nothing there. No hand, no shadow. But the feeling lingered. Cold, oily. I locked myself in the bathroom until morning. The next day, I noticed bruises on my leg. Long, faint, like fingerprints. I didn't call the police. I didn't know how to explain something I couldn't prove. Instead, I did the one thing I'd been avoiding. I went back to the old house. The place was boarded up now. Windows covered. Front door sealed. But the side wall, the one with the hidden spaces, was partially open. Police tape hung loosely, forgotten. I shouldn't have gone inside. I did anyway. The air inside was stale and heavy. The smell was everywhere now, soaked into the walls. I moved slowly, every step echoing too loudly. At the end of the hallway, the wall was gone. In its place was an opening. A crawl space. Barely wide enough for a person to fit through. The inside was scratched raw. Handprints covered the concrete. There were drag marks on the floor. And there were personal items. Old clothes. Food wrappers. Bottles of water. Proof. This wasn't imagination. As I stood there, frozen, I heard movement behind me. Not from the crawl space. From the wall. I ran. I didn't stop running until I collapsed outside, gasping for air. That night, in my apartment, the whisper came back. Clearer this time. I know where you sleep. After that night, I stopped pretending this would ever end quietly. I know where you sleep. The words didn't echo. They didn't fade. They sat in the air like they belonged there, like the room had been waiting to say them. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I understood something then that I hadn't before. It wasn't trying to scare me anymore. It was informing me. I stayed awake until morning, sitting against the farthest corner of the room, knees pulled to my chest, eyes fixed on the walls. Nothing else happened that night. No movement. No smell. No whispers. That scared me more than anything else, because it meant it didn't need to try anymore. The next few days passed in a blur. I packed a bag and moved again, this time to a paying guest house near campus, crowded, noisy, full of people. Thin walls, shared bathrooms, constant footsteps. I thought noise and proximity would keep me safe. For a short time, it worked. I started sleeping again. Lightly, but enough to function. I went back to college. I avoided being alone. I never stayed in my room during the day. I told myself that whatever had attached itself to me needed silence, darkness, isolation. I was wrong. One evening, while brushing my hair in the shared bathroom, I noticed something in the mirror behind me. A shape. Not a reflection. Not a shadow. a place where the reflection didn't quite match reality. The wall behind me looked deeper in the mirror, like it extended farther back than it should have. I turned around. The wall was normal. When I looked back at the mirror, the depth was gone. I stopped using mirrors after that. The smell returned slowly. Always slow. Always subtle. It followed me room to room, building to building. It never stayed long enough for anyone else to complain. Only enough for me to notice. I started documenting again, but this time, not recordings. Writing. I kept a notebook and wrote everything down. Times. Sensations. Sounds. Smells. I needed proof. For myself, if nothing else. That notebook became my anchor. Until the night I found pages torn out. I hadn't ripped them. I knew I hadn't. They were cleanly removed, like someone had taken their time. On the last remaining page, there was writing that wasn't mine. Same uneven handwriting as before. You don't need this anymore. That was the moment I accepted something I'd been avoiding. This wasn't about a house. This wasn't even about walls. It was about being noticed. Whatever it was, it had lived unseen for a long time. In hidden spaces. In forgotten corners. It survived by staying unnoticed. And I noticed. I remembered the article about the missing woman. The forum post. The stories of people finding signs but never answers. I wondered if that was the real mistake. Not renting the house. Not staying alone. But noticing. I stopped running after that. Not because I felt brave, but because I was exhausted. One night, I sat on my bed in the PG room, lights off, surrounded by noise from the other tenants. Laughter. Music. Life. I spoke out loud for the first time. I know you're there. The noise outside didn't stop. No one reacted. The room felt heavier. I don't want to fight you, I continued, my voice shaking. I just want to understand. Silence. Then pressure. Not a sound. Not a movement. Pressure, like the air was pushing inward, like the room was shrinking around me. And then a thought appeared in my mind that wasn't mine. Not words. Understanding. It didn't want understanding. It wanted space. That night, I dreamed differently. I wasn't afraid in the dream. I was inside a narrow space, but it didn't feel hostile. I could feel the walls around me, close but steady. I wasn't alone. I woke up calm for the first time in months. The smell was gone. The whispers stopped. Days passed. Then weeks. Nothing followed me anymore. I started believing, dangerously, that it was over. Until I noticed something about myself. I started choosing seats near walls. Standing close to corners. Sleeping better in tight spaces. Wide, open rooms made me uneasy. I dismissed it as habit. Trauma. Then one evening, a girl in the PG house screamed. They found scratch marks on the wall of her room. Long, shallow. Fresh. She moved out the next day. I told myself it wasn't connected. But deep down, something shifted. I realized it hadn't left. It had adjusted. Months later, I moved into a small apartment of my own again. I avoided older buildings. I chose one with solid concrete walls, no crawl spaces, no gaps. For a while, everything was normal. Until the maintenance guy came to fix a leak. He knocked on my door uneasy. "Ma'am," he said, scratching his neck. "There's a hollow space behind your bedroom wall." My heart dropped. "It's probably nothing," he added quickly. "Old construction. But there are signs someone's been leaning against it. Recently." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, listening. For the first time, I felt it on the other side. Not trying to get in. Listening to me. I understood then. It didn't follow places. It followed people who made room for it. People who learned to live closer to walls. People who stopped needing open space. People like me. I moved out again. And again. And again. No matter where I go, I feel more comfortable near walls now. I don't even realize it until someone points it out. I don't talk about what happened. I don't warn people. Because I've noticed something terrifying. When I tell the story, when I describe the smells, the scratches, the spaces, I feel lighter. And someone else starts noticing things in their own house. I'm writing this now because it's quiet. Because I can feel it close again, settling. And because I think this is how it survives. Not by hiding, but by being shared. If you're reading this and you suddenly feel aware of the wall nearest to you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pass it on. But once you notice, it knows.